My understanding is that there seems to be quite a spectrum of what could be termed consciousness or the I-ness. As one experiences their being and their being alive and taking in change as it's occurring in their environment, they're a witness to the sensations that are being coming in from their body to their brain, that there is a range of awareness of intensity or heightened awareness as opposed to um, being semi-conscious or being asleep. There is being somewhat conscious, such as if you're daydreaming, you could be it could be termed that you are less conscious than if you are in the middle of a final exam and you're having to answer questions that are having to deal with solving a mathematical problem. There is a different level of consciousness there. Or if you're in right in the time of being involved in an auto accident, you're in a car or in a vehicle and another something happens, and in that moment of time as it's passing it slows down, so you have a heightened consciousness at that time, so you're hyper conscious as opposed to you're just waking up from being asleep or you're falling asleep and you're witnessing your own body falling into the sleep, or you're waking up from being asleep. Or in another way, you would be being prepared for an operation. So you're going into surgery, and they've given you the drug, whatever the drug that they give you, and then you're given the full anesthesia. You're falling out of consciousness in that case. So it's, I think, to clarify what consciousness is one's at what moment, how can you define that? Because it seems like there's a wide range. It seems like there could be people that are hypoconscious most of the time, and there could be people that are hyperconscious most of their time while they're alive. And I would assume that if someone's not really that conscious, then they would be more of a zombie person. They would probably be very conformist. They would probably imitate they would imitate other people and try not to um, draw attention to themselves. But you would look into a crowd of people and you wouldn't be able to tell that those people are of less consciousness than the people that are hyper conscious, that are intensely aware of their own existence at that moment. And so it could be that the people that are hypoconscious are less sensitive to others. Maybe they could be prone to be sociopathic in their behavior. They assume that everyone else is incapable of having feelings because they are in their own life, in their hypoconsciousness. They're very unsensitive to their environment. They only can crudely experience pain, so they have a high tolerance for very unpleasant, painful situations. Whereas if someone that's a hypersensitive person that's hyperconscious would be very intensely aware of all the little tiniest sensations on their skin. They would be very hyper aware of their of of if they're sad or if they're happy or if they're um, so there could be a range of consciousness as far as people. Some people could be more conscious more of the time than other people could be, and that would kind of explain why there's there is a division amongst people as far as the values go in the way of they value sentient life. Maybe those that are more prone to value sentient life, conscious beings, and concern about the well-being of other beings is because they themselves are overly sensitive to their own environment, to their own feelings, their own emotions, and they project out into the world that they're, just as they experience their hyper consciousness of the reality of their own existence, they project that onto all the other beings like them or similar in bodily form to them, and they assume that they're having the same sensitivity of their own consciousness. Whereas in reality, it could be that the people that are hypo sensitive, that are they're like tough, they're very thick skinned people that don't have a lot of feelings. They don't react. They're very dense, and they live kind of very um, unaware of what's going on around them. They just have the basic awareness. They have survival skills, but they don't have the hypersensitivity that the hyperconsciousness person may have most of their awake life. If that makes any sense, I don't know. But signing off.